Indonesia has announced the dire next step that appears to seal the fate of Australian death row prisoners Myuran Sukumaran and Andrew Chan. The Attorney-General has announced the pair will be moved this week from their Bali prison to the island of Nusa Kambangan off Java, where they'll face a firing squad. The announcement comes despite frantic last-minute appeals and legal manoeuvres to try and win the two men a reprieve. Shortly, we'll hear from a former Australian ambassador about how the story is playing out in Indonesia. But first, Louise Milligan filed this report from Bali.
It's midnight in Denpasar and a gloom has settled over Kerobokan prison. Inside, Myuran Sukumaran and Andrew Chan are spending what could well be one of their last nights in this place they have called home for almost 10 years. An entire prison population is preparing for a terrible wrench.
The feeling in the prison has changed. There's this incredible sense of bewilderment. These are men that everyone looks to. These are men that are reforming other people.
As day breaks over the Indonesian island province, the Balinese send their offerings up to the gods. For many foreigners, Bali is a place of quiet beachside meditation. The families of Andrew Chan and Myuran Sukumaran are praying and hoping too, but they have no space for quiet or solitude.
Oh, the last 3 weeks have been like a journey into the heart of darkness in many, many ways.
For the past 8.5 years, Sally WARHAFT has been a close friend and supporter of the Sukumaran family and their son. Staying with them the past 3 weeks, as the prospect of execution becomes ever more likely, she's witness to what she describes simply as horror.
There's sort of something going through my body at the moment that isn't quite blood, it's something else, that you're in a heightened state of worry and anxiety, terrible anxiety about what might happen. And so, you know, they're experiencing that times 1,000. And there is, I think, a physical, you feel it in your whole being, in your body and in your heart and in your mind. And it's I've never, ever seen or felt quite what I'm seeing and feeling.
She says part of the confusion for their families is their constant sense of hope, having it dashed, then hoping again.
But it does get harder and harder to, I think, deal, you know, for the family with this just ongoing, relentless, terrible stress that they're under. It is simply indescribable, the pressure that they're under.
All they can do, she says, is love their boy.
It manifests itself in love. They respond to this horror. They meet it with love. It's the only thing I can see that is up for the horror is the love they have to match it. And they give and give and give. In every way, they feed him and touch him, and that goes both ways.
As Sally WARHAFT is to the Sukumarans, Christie Buckingham is to the Chans. She's gulping down a morning coffee, no time for breakfast, as she prepares for her daily visit to Kerobokan.
Andrew Chan has changed my life for the better. I can tell you now that I am grateful. In fact, I said this to him yesterday. I am so grateful for the passion that he has that is infectious. It's infectious.
For the past 3 years, the pastor and her husband also a Christian pastor, have been a constant presence in Andrew Chan's life. Under her tutelage, Chan has trained to become a pastor himself.
I defy anyone, I don't care what walk of life you're in, I defy them to go in there and meet Andrew and meet Mayu, look in the eye, have a conversation with them and say they are not reformed. It is impossible. I am convinced that if President Jokowi went to Kerobokan, saw what they did, saw what they do with the other prisoners, there is no way they would execute them.
President Joko Widodo presses on. Today, a meeting was held with representatives of the Australian Embassy in Jakarta.
And even their own constitution says that each case should be taken individually. And because they're not known, they're just a name, and they just want to slaughter them.
They're discussing arrangements for Chan and Sukumaran's transfer to an island where they'll be shot by firing squad.
This is wrong. These boys should not be executed. We're in 2015. We're in 2015. These boys made a horrendous mistake, and now they want to live the rest of their lives helping Indonesians.
Can you conceptualise, you know, taking them to an island, tying them to a post and shooting them dead?
In a word, no.
In a new twist, Chan and Sukumaran's lawyers have delivered a letter to Indonesia's Judicial Committee outlining allegations that the judges who decided their death sentences offered lighter sentences in exchange for money.
This really comes from the previous lawyer, but it turns out he has allegations to make about some corruption, some soliciting of bribes and some attempts to influence the judicial process. We can't sign up to that because we weren't there, but it's an allegation coming from a serious person. It's coming from a lawyer, you know, it's just blatantly obvious. You've got to check it out and see what happens.
In Sydney, members of the extended Chan and Sukumaran families received a Mercy Campaign petition on Sunday with almost 170,000 Australian signatures. Myron Sukumaran's grandmother made yet another plea to Indonesian authorities.
So I beg him again and again to please forgive them and give both of them a second chance.
The Indonesian Attorney General's office has announced late today that Chan and Sukumaran will be transferred to the prison island Nusa Kambangan this week.
Untuk pelaksanaan eksekusi tahap berikutnya,
we are going to move the two from Kerobokan. After that, we are moving the convict from Madian, then Jogja. Once we gather them all in Nusa Kambangan, then we will announce when the D-Day is.
yang tersebar di 5 tempat.
As the circus outside the prison in Bali continues and the Attorney General digs in his heels, the families still won't give up hope.
I just want this to all go away. I want this to stop and them to be able to keep living their lives. I want them to be able to keep supporting people and looking after people and making good with their families and loving their families and living. I want them just to live.